The worst question I've ever heard about trading is how much can I make? How much can I make? And you'd think that is a logic, and it really is a logical question, especially for someone who is a beginner, because a beginner doesn't know how much they can make in a year or a month or whatever. So this is a logical question, but it's also one of the worst questions you can ever be asked because there are so many facets at play when it comes to how much money you can or potentially could make in any given year, let's say. So let's go through just a couple of them. One would be potentially trade frequency. Okay. So if you only took one trade in a year, then it's possible, don't get me wrong, depends on what the trade is, then it's possible that, or it's less likely you're going to make as much money if you're only doing one trade a year, for example. But there is a trade off with trade frequency. Don't think that, oh, and therefore, if I take 10 trades a day, I'm going to be better off as well. So there's a trade-off there because it might be that if you're over trading, then all sorts of other things go on. So trade frequency is going to come into it to some degree. How much risk per trade? How much risk you put on per trade? So you could have two traders taking exactly the same setups all year long. One trader is risking 0.25 of 1% of their account, and the other one is risking 1% of their account. Well, obviously, the trader with 1% at risk per trade is going to make 4 times the amount of the person with only a quarter of a percent at risk. However, if they go through drawdown periods, the person who's only risking a quarter of a percent is not going to feel it so much because they're risking so much less. So again, risk per trade is going to have an impact on how much you can make. Not everybody is going to want to risk the same amount. So of course, that's going to have an impact. Obviously, the type or the style of trading, so we'll put strategy, is going to have some form of impact as well. Strategy here. So very quickly, it's very quickly obvious that you almost cannot give someone an answer as to how much can I make. What I can do is say, look, for the average trader who is trading regularly throughout the year, if they're risking 1% per trade, again, not a quarter of a percent per trade, so based on them risking about 1% per trade, then I've always said the potential to be making sort of 30 to 50% a year is there. Now, that doesn't mean to say that they are definitely going to make that sort of amount. It could be they make more in some years. Certainly they can make more than that. In other years they'll make less. In fact, one trader that I've been coaching recently just made 30% on a single trade. Literally on a euro yen run. It's going to have a look. If I go and find the euro yen currency pair here, the euro yen, if I take this back to a daily chart, it had this wonderful run. He'd got in down here. I won't go into the setups and stuff, the reasons, but he had a great run. And so 30% in a single trade with a bit of adding in, as I teach, along the way. So that's on a single trade. So the potential within trading is high, but you can't expect, oh, I'm definitely going to make 30 to 50% a year every year. It doesn't tend to work out that way depending on what the markets are doing and when you're in sync with the markets or out of sync with the markets. So in many regards, it's the worst question that you can ask because it's such a difficult one to actually answer. And the main thing is, I think, is really important here, and probably the most important aspect. If your focus is on the money, which sounds weird because we all get into trading to make money, but if your focus is on that end result, then are you putting enough of your focus into the process of trading? If you put your focus into the process of trading, the money will take care of itself. If you're focused just on that end result with the nice sunshine here at the end of the day or the end of the year, then you're not concentrating enough on the day-to-day activity of being the best trader you can be. Being the best trader is not the amount of money. Being the best trader you can be is following and executing your plan, whatever your style is. And when you take a trade, staying with the trade plan to whatever the given targets are. That is where your focus should be. If you're thinking about the end result, more than likely your focus is not going to be on all the day-to-day, week-to-week stuff that you need to put your concentration into. And so my answer is, yes, it's nice to have an overall sort of view of what may be achieved, but then park that and then focus on following your plan and your processes, because that is what really gives you the gains in the long run. Not, oh, I want to make 100% this year or anything like that. So yeah, it's a funny old question, that one. How much money can you make in the markets? Because it's what everybody, especially who are newer, want to know. Yes, there is the potential there to make 100%, 200% in any given year. Anyone can achieve anything, but realistically, when you start averaging out, it's not really going to be that high. It's going to be less than 100%. If someone could make 50% a year every year, I mean, that is a phenomenal return anyway. So your focus should be, right, if I do these things and I follow my plan, then I'm putting myself in the best position year in, year out to achieve, my goals or get close to those goals. And that's all you can do. That's the way to approach the markets. And because you're going to have to deal with those years where you underperform as well. So if you focus solely on, I've got to make 50% a year, well, if you have a year and you end up making 10% because or 5%, or even a drawdown year, which is going to happen, every trader has it, then what's going to happen then to you emotionally? Or you judge yourself by, are you following your plan? Do not judge yourself by how much money you have made or haven't made. You go down that path and you're going down the path to the dark side, and that's where all the emotions lie, and that's when it all gets unraveled. Anyway, hopefully that's been of use for you today. I'll be back next week for the next video.